Hey everybody, great to see you again. I can't believe it, but today is our last day of Food Smarts cooking. So we're going to try to bring things full circle. We're going to wrap up by thinking about how we would actually get from thinking about a meal that we want to make to getting the groceries, to having those at home, to actually being able to cook and prepare those together. So we're going to think about meal planning all the way through actually making and then eating our food. We're also going to think about how food advertisements play a role in how we make decisions about our food, right? We've talked about the nutrition facts label, we've talked about how food makes us feel, we've talked about how to decide which food is going to do the best stuff for our body. So we're going to think about how food advertisements impact our decision making and how we can plan our meals for ourselves, or at least help our families plan. Okay, so planning a meal. How do we do that, right? Some of you may already help with the grocery shopping at your house, or at least maybe you go to the grocery store, or maybe you pick up your food at the farmer's market or a food pantry, wherever your family gets food. Some of you might participate in that, and maybe some of you don't participate in that, but someday you're gonna need to know how to plan a meal and then go get the ingredients to make that meal at home. So there are a couple really simple steps that we are going to practice today together, and then there's some work you can do in your workbook on page 50 to plan a meal and make a grocery list for yourself. So the first thing we want to do is decide what we want to make. So we could use a recipe like you've been looking at in class, or we could think of meals that are just already in our brain that we know how to make off the top of our head. So some of you might know how to make pasta with sauce and meatballs, right? So we don't really need a recipe for that, maybe. But we know what ingredients are in there just because we've seen it made or we know how to make it. So choose a meal that you already know how to make or one that you can follow a recipe for. And then we want to look through the ingredients on that recipe or that we already know from our brain and write down a list of things that we need to buy. So when we make that list, we want to think about, do we already have some of those things in our fridge? Or do we need to buy all of these? Or do we have some of these in our pantry, maybe like olive oil or spices? Maybe there's some things that are in your house that can be used many, many times before you have to buy a new one. So write down the items that you would need to get at the grocery store or the food pantry or the farmer's market. And then you got to go shopping for them. So when we go shopping, we want to think about our nutrition facts label, like we've learned, right? And make sure we're choosing the things that are going to make our bodies feel really great, right? So using the nutrition facts label and paying attention to prices, and maybe that's something at this point that an adult could help you with. And then we get those ingredients home, and then we can make our meal, right? So if we were planning more than one meal, we might want to think about ingredients that we could use more than once. And I'm going to show you an example of that. I'm going to walk you through 2 meals that I planned, thought of, wrote a grocery list for, and then could go and get my ingredients for. Let's take a look at those. Okay, so I decided to make myself a breakfast and a snack or maybe a light lunch. So my first recipe that I'm going to look at is these breakfast burritos, hearty egg burritos. So the ingredients on here tell me that I need green onions or scallions, a red bell pepper, garlic, cheddar cheese, black olives, canola oil, eggs, cumin, which is a spice, black pepper, cooking spray, and whole wheat tortillas. Okay, so I'm gonna think through that and think about things I already have or things that I know I need to put on my grocery list because I don't have them. So I'm gonna look through and say, green onions, I don't have any of those. Those are going on the grocery list. Red bell pepper, don't have any of those. Going on the grocery list. Garlic, I have tons of garlic, so I don't need to buy any more. Cheddar cheese, getting low on that, so I'll get some more of that. That goes on the grocery list. Black beans, I have a big bag of dried black beans in my cupboard, so I'm not gonna get any black beans today. Canola oil, I don't have any canola oil, but I do have olive oil. And I think in this recipe, I can use olive oil. So I'm not going to put that on my grocery list. Eggs. I definitely need some eggs for this breakfast burrito. So I'll put eggs on my grocery list. Cumin and black pepper. Those are spices. So I keep those in my spice cabinet. And it doesn't happen to be a day that I run out. It takes a long time before those run out. So I'm not going to put cumin or black pepper on my grocery list. And I'm also not going to put cooking spray because I think I can put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan to use instead of cooking spray. And the last ingredient is tortillas, and I don't have any tortillas, so I'm going to put those on my grocery list. So for these burritos, my grocery list would look like this. Now, if we look at those and say, okay, what ingredients are we not going to use all of for this recipe? Let's see. Might not use all the cheddar cheese. We probably won't use all the eggs unless we're making a huge batch. And we probably won't use all the tortillas. So I'm deciding that because I know how I'll have leftover tortillas, I'll make a snack that also has tortillas in them for my next meal. So I found a recipe that I like, which is these apple wraps. And it tells me I only need 4 things: apples, bananas, peanut butter, and tortillas. I know I already have tortillas because I'm going to buy them for my breakfast burritos, but I need all those 3 other ingredients. So for this recipe, for my apple wrap recipe, these will be the things I need to buy. And if I put those 2 lists together, here is my final shopping list. So when I buy all these ingredients, I know I'll have enough food, enough ingredients to make breakfast burritos and apple wraps. So now I have my shopping list that I can go to the grocery store with, or the farmer's market, or check out the food pantry. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about really quickly before you guys get to cooking is advertisements. We see advertisements all over when we're driving down the road, in grocery stores, on TV. We hear them on the radio. We see them in magazines. They're kind of everywhere, right? And there's a lot of advertisements that are directed at you. Whatever age we are, there's a lot of ads that are targeting and trying to speak to us, right? So there's a lot of different ways that's done. Sometimes we might see celebrities in advertisements. We might hear catchy slogans or theme songs. I bet you can all think of a jingle or 2 that you remember. They often show people having tons of fun eating or drinking whatever it is that they're advertising. Sometimes they use like cartoon characters that we know about, something that grabs our attention and makes us feel like we can connect to that ad. And sometimes they appeal to our health, so they try to tell us that this is a healthy option for us. So there's lots of different ways that advertisements work. And most ads have a couple different elements, and we're going to look at those. So usually they have a headline, like something that's big that we can see really easily. And then maybe like a sub headline that tells us a little bit more. Maybe it tells us what the food is, or it tells us something about it. Then there's usually a slogan. Either maybe there's a jingle, or maybe there's a slogan written. There's almost always a picture if it's a print advertisement, or if it's on TV, there's usually some sort of person or something going on. And then there's almost always the logo, so we know what company is advertising this food. So when we think about ads, some things we might want to think about are, where do we see these ads? Where do you mostly see the ads that you like best? Who is the person advertising or the company advertising? Do we see them from fast food restaurants? Do we see them from grocery stores? Where do we mostly see advertisements coming from? Who's the one that's making them? And who do you think the audience is? Do you think they're targeted at you? Do they make sense for you, or are they for someone else? Are they for someone older or maybe younger than you? What is the ad trying to tell you? Is it trying to get you to think this thing tastes delicious? Is it trying to get you to think that this thing is really good for your body? What is it? And what sort of information does the ad tell you? Is anything helpful? Or is anything maybe a little bit confusing, maybe misleading, right? So a lot of things to think about. So when you guys look in your book on page 51, there's an advertisement that kind of looks like this one to look at and think about the different parts that are there and how advertisements are in your daily life, where you see them and what sort of impact they have on you. Okay, everybody, enjoy this last cooking session. I really hope you enjoy the recipe that you're making today. And when you look in your book to create a meal plan and a grocery list, think about all those things we know about food, about if the ingredients are colorful. Are we getting food from all 5 food groups? When we think about if we were actually shopping for these things, what would you see on the nutrition facts label? How would you make good decisions about that? And then when we think about our advertising, if you have time to work on page 51, think about how advertisements influence you and where you see them. And then think about, again, all the things we've learned about food and how you can make decisions that are best for you that aren't necessarily because you saw a cool advertisement, right? That we can make decisions based on if we know that a food is good for our body, if it has all 5 food groups, if there's lots of different colors, and most important of all, if it makes our body feel really great, right? If it gives us the things that we need to make our brain feel good and our body feel energetic. That's the most important thing. Have fun today. I hope you enjoy your recipe and these activities. It's been really fun learning with you guys, and hopefully I get to see you in person next year. Until then, bring some of these cooking tools home, keep cooking over the summer, keep enjoying food and trying new things, and I will see you soon.